Bearcat Bounce Podcast, back at it again. Happy Monday. Happy Monday following a Easter Sunday, following the conclusion of the basketball season, year one in the Big 12, and also a Monday following another week gone for spring practice in year two of the Coach Scott Satterfield era. It's also a Monday where we get to talk a little bit more about the offseason for the Bearcats. So the wondrous portal season, the wondrous what the current core needs to improve on. And then, of course, it's also a Monday where one of our hosts, one of our co-hosts, one of our brothers, one of the crew almost went viral. So we're going to talk about that as well. It's also Monday where I'm going to bring on my guys. Right now, there's only two additional, as well as me, that are available. That viral one, he'll be joining us in a bit. But for now, without further ado, Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, gentlemen, how are we?
You know, I'm surviving a rough week, so I'm here. Gonna try to keep my spirits up and be happy.
Yep. There we go.
Did that work?
I saw the smile. Wow. You'd be a pretty good little like like the whole acting. Yeah, it'd be nice. You ever thought about going to acting? Could be. Whoa, it's a big smile, Chad. I like it. Show them pearlies. But hey, how was Easter?
It's good. Went to brunch on Kelly's side of the family, and then over to my aunt's. Made some Texas shotgun shells.
You love those now?
My new go-to app.
Lock in. Yep.
So made some of those. That's about it. Had a good time with the fam.
Boom. Lock in. I love it. Aaron, how are we, sir? How was old Easter for the Smiths?
It was good. My brother-in-law had his cornea scratched by his daughter. She just went in and
wow,
got him right in the eyeball.
Wow.
But glad it better him than me, I suppose.
Okay, right where it hurts. There we go. Yeah, I agree.
But no, good to see family and get back out here. Hopefully, the storms rolling through the state of Ohio that are presenting a 7 out of 10 for tornadic activity.
Whoa.
Allow us to.
Tomorrow's supposed to be the doozy.
Is that the one?
Yeah, today is like the precursor. I guess I saw on Twitter earlier that the Weather Channel has dispatched correspondents to Cincinnati.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's never good. You never want that.
Nope.
So
the Midwest.
The
Midwest
buckle up tomorrow.
Lock in, baby. Be all right though. You survived worse out there in Athens. You'll be good.
No, he hasn't. He's lost power.
He's not survived a tornado.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tornado winds pushed over your one thing that one time, the generator, whatever.
Yeah. It knocked a tree over and blew the generator on top of the telephone pole.
Yeah.
Sure, but
yeah,
it wasn't an actual tornado coming through. That would be worse.
I think you'll
catastrophic. No, I don't want to survive a tornado.
Prayers up for you, Aaron. Prayers up.
If we just lose him, we know Mother Nature was at Aaron's front door again.
Yep. Just gotta click your heels and say no place like home, Aaron. You'll be all right.
I'll get a text from him saying I talked to the power company. They're expecting the power to be back on sometime between now and the beginning of May.
Right. Exactly. They'll be back eventually. But yeah,
Athens gonna Athens.
Athens gonna Athens. I do want to get the show rolling. I think we're gonna be under an hour this show because I gotta, we all kind of gotta keep our night going. So we'll try and make it quick, real fast, to the point. No real long breaks. April Fools. Hey! I thought I'd get a couple of you on that one. But
Aaron, I was waiting for the. I almost sent a text today that said, "Brent, are we going to have to end early today so you can watch the women's Elite Eight, or are we good?"
So I mean, supposedly the game's electric right now. I don't even have it on because the internet, electric. I guess, just hates me if I turn it on. Yeah, no, seriously, that's what I heard. Are you watching it, Chad?
Yeah.
I've been flipping back and forth between that and the Reds.
Okay. Oh man, the Reds. How about them?
2-2 in the top of the sixth.
Already a roller coaster this year. But yeah, Easter was good down here. My nephew, how about this? Got baptized in the ocean yesterday. How about that little mass on the beach? So the
They turned
priest,
the entire ocean into holy water.
yeah, the priest is out there dunking kids left and right. It was a nice way
That's
to get baptized. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool little time.
It's got to be a separation of church and state issue, doesn't it?
I have no idea.
International waters, you're fine.
Then you got to go out. Like you
Fine.
Oh, he was pretty far out there. I'll say that. But yeah, it was a pretty cool event. Safe to say it's been a wild past week, but man, there's plenty more to get to here on the old BBP. I was hoping we would get Royer right now, so we can talk about the viral moment that he had this past week, which I guess we'll dive into when he joins on the pod. Because boy, oh boy, if you haven't seen the video, it was hilarious. But if you did see the video, you might be kind of freaked out when you hear Sauce Gardner mention the name Ryan Royer. So you might have swerved a little bit. You might have accidentally hit a little pow, a little hubcap coming off, a little bit of damage on the undertow, if you will. That's when another thing. So we were in Daytona Beach for the baptism. Guess what you can do in Daytona Beach? You can drive your car on the sand, drive it right there on the beach. Pretty cool. Cool little thing you got there. So maybe you get a little bit too much sand under your car and you have to drive it all the way back to Cincinnati, and you're like, wow, too much sand in my car. I got to take it over to Danco Transmission and Auto Care. Danco Joe will fix it for you. That's right. It'll be 10% off your next fixing, $10 off your next oil change. DancoTransmission.com. Well, guys, it's a culmination of the first year in the Big 12. Wes Miller, yet again, having one of those productive seasons where it ends in, tournament fashion, if you will. NIT yet again for the second year, 2 out of 3 seasons that the Bearcats have gone to the NIT under Wes Miller. Final record, still solid, 22-15 in the gauntlet of the Big 12, 7-11 in that gauntlet of the Big 12. Chad, you and Dave kind of had a quick reaction in the BCJ pod last week. It was a little bit more of a summary of what was seen in the last handful of games and what to carry over into the off season. This one is going to be a little bit more of a reaction to the whole season, if you will. I guess.
Do we get to do superlatives?
I guess we got to take a step back and do a little bit of a basketball end of the season superlatives. Chad's favorite segment.
I'm so excited.
Chad texted me.
Just can't hide.
Chad texted me last.
I'm about to lose control, and I think I like it.
Last Wednesday, Chad hit me up and he said, "Hey, I'm reading the text right now. Hey, Brent, it's bummer that the season is over. Tough finish, but excited for superlatives on next week's BBP." Hey. I mean, me too, Chad. But yeah, let's dive in. Your guys is just overall thoughts on the year as a whole. And then we will dive into a little bit of a breakdown one by one. Chad, you want to start it off?
Aaron can start.
Nope, but I got it.
Yes, there you go.
Yep. I don't know. It was about what we expected, and I guess that's almost a disappointment because you wanted to catch lightning in a bottle. You wanted to maybe see somebody far exceed your expectations and get to places that maybe you weren't expecting. And unfortunately, what we saw was a team that looked like it was getting its first real glimpse of the Big 12 as a whole. And I think the staff, I think the fans, I think the players all kind of got an idea as to what needs this team still has, where they can improve. I think that we all kind of got an idea as to what this team's ceiling was, and I think that we lived at the ceiling most of the season up until the end, when that ceiling was elevated just a little bit there in March, when we finally saw guys start scoring over 20 points. And so you saw a little bit of a step there, but unfortunately it was too little too late. And so I don't know, like I said, I mean, just because they met expectations, it is for people who wear rose-colored lenses a bit of a disappointment, because you did want to see them elevate, probably I don't know, about 3 or 4 weeks before they did.
Right.
But that's my thoughts anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Agree. Chad?
You can always count on Aaron to come up with something like, they were right about expectations, and that's disappointing.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Well, I mean,
Um,
you know what I'm saying, though. Like, you
I
wanted to
know
see
what you're
them
saying.
exceed
I
your
know, but-
expectations.
Sure,
Yeah.
but expectations are like realistic, which is what we try to do here. Realistic expectations are what they are because they're realistic, and I think we had realistic expectations. I think it's, the thing that I think people need to really consider and weigh heavily in your mind on how this season turned out is it was a team that was replacing 6 of their top 7 guys.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen easily. Like if it happened easily, everybody would do it. And look, you'll see 1 or 2 teams catch lightning in a bottle. Well, guess what? There were 200 teams last year. I'm making that number up, but like there were a ton of teams that redid their roster and struggled at least through portions of it as you try to figure out where your leadership comes from, where your scoring comes from. A lot of these things that are, unless you just have an NBA like surefire scorer, like a lot of these things are trial and error and trial by fire. And guys, egads, college guys growing into roles instead of just, boom, you're the leader and boom, you're the scorer and boom, we're throwing it to you in crunch time, and then everything clicks and off they go. Like it unfortunately it doesn't. And in today's era of basketball, that you're gonna have to get used to some of this, at least to an extent.
Right.
But it takes a little while to gel. I talked about this late last week, and I think it's worth talking about again. I thought John Cunningham put it perfectly in saying that the vision for this, and I think this is going to be what you're seeing in college basketball become like more of the norm, is teams operating in 2-year windows.
Yeah.
Where you say, okay, like if you have to do a start over, if you have to do a retool, if you will, that you do it with an idea of we're bringing in multi-year transfers. We're bringing in stuff that is not just a fix for this year, but gives us a 2-year window. Now, obviously, what Aaron is getting at, and he's right, would we have liked to have seen them figure out a way to be on the right side of the bubble instead of the wrong side of the bubble? Absolutely. Yeah, of course we would. But that's not really how the results played out. And it's difficult, but I thought you saw really good progress from the program. I thought you saw steps forward taken by a lot of guys from even the middle of the season to the back end of the season. You started to see roles get defined. And if you're looking at it as a 2-year window, like that's a really good thing.
Yeah. Kind of going back to the beginning of it. Yes, expectations going into the season were bubble, kind of right side of the bubble. Oh, Royer, sir, how are we?
You're on mute.
Doing great, boys.
There we go, baby.
Doing great. Happy to be here. Y'all doing good?
Yeah. Chad needs to talk to you after the pod. I don't think it'll be good, but April Fools. April Fools. But yeah, we're gonna talk about the story a little bit later in the pod. So just have your prep ready. But right now we're talking about overall recap of the basketball season. But yeah, Chad, kind of like what you were saying. If you go back to the beginning of the year, the thoughts were bubble, expectations bubble, possibly right side of the bubble if certain things happen, and then you get the 2 bigs eligible in Aziz and Jamil, and then the expectations did rise a little bit. But then just so many things that happened. It's just the CMOS getting hit by a car. You got CJ just not being able to stay healthy to save himself. You got Vic battling the illness and then injuries. It just the fluctuation of weird things happening throughout the year is up there with some of the stranger things I've seen in a season, kind of breaking down from beginning to end. It is a stark difference from what was seen in the beginning of the year when you thought Aziz and Jamil probably weren't going to be eligible, and then all of a sudden what you saw in that game last Tuesday against Indiana State, which is a whole conversation within itself. Refs just forgot how to ref on that one, but it is wild to see kind of the difference of what the team looked like and what they were able to battle through adversity wise and battle in the Big 12 in a big way and show moments where they were exceeding expectations, but also show moments where they failed to hit the expectations. But I mean, there's plenty more to unpack, but the core itself, I think, is the main thing that what you were getting at, Chad. And, I heard John Cunningham mention the whole, Peach Bowl leading into, the Cotton Bowl team in football. And I agree with that in a sense. But I mean, if you're playing in the Peach Bowl, that's a big game within itself. That's a monstrous season within itself. So I kind of liken it to the year before, when they football team kind of had a good season and ended up losing to Memphis in the AAC championship game and, won I think that was a Birmingham Bowl win. And then that next year they were able to kind of boost up and have a good run at things. And then the following year was when they were magical, but we'll see how that kind of plays off. But overall, I think it's a season where you see so many close things that didn't go your way that if they would have, then all of a sudden you're talking about exceeding those expectations. And it's a whole different conversation. But for now, I think arrow's still pointing up as far as things go, although there are some fine-tuning things that need to be done. Royer, you just quick overall thoughts on the basketball season this past year, what you've been able to gather in.
Yeah, I think it was just another step in the right direction, but we didn't go as far with that step as I think we all kind of expected. I think that as the players and coaches expected to. Showed good signs, showed like we have some good promise going into next year, but it wasn't really supposed to be like another we'll get them next year type of thing. Kind of thought we'd take the jump into March Madness. So I was disappointed in that, but the team just showed they can hang with the best teams in the league. But it was always just close, but not good enough. But I think we have the right guy in there with Wes, and I think you see how the way the guys play for him. Just look at the effort they give in the NIT tournament. There's a lot of teams that don't want to show up. There's a lot of guys that don't want to play. You got the portal opening up, but just seeing the way the guys kind of battled, even though they didn't win the thing when I thought that should be something they should do. I just like the way they play. So it just gives me hope going into next year. But yeah, I know we're all kind of in agreement. It's, got to make it in next year. No ifs, ands, or buts. And I think they should have been there this year too. But, I think there's a lot of guys who stepped up towards the end. They're going to be carrying that momentum into the next season. So I'm really excited, especially like the backcourt. I think we got a lot of talent, guys that are getting comfortable and only going to get better. I think we got some questions on the inside that we're going to have to do some development / shopping to see if we can get some more inside presence. But, overall good, but definitely a little bit under expectations.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. A little under
right his expectation. I mean, I think, like I said, I think this is about where everybody's expectations were. Be on the bubble. Right. Hopefully you're on the wrong side of it, but first year in this league, so many new faces, and yeah. I think the only thing that kind of like swayed the like shifted the goalpost a little bit was when they start Big 12 play and every game was close, right? And people just
BYU,
yeah,
beat Texas
and then
Tech,
yeah,
should have beat Texas,
should have beat
Oklahoma,
yeah.
So, you're sitting there looking and going, they could be 4-2, and you expect the wins to come, but you still have to keep playing Big 12 games, which is the lesson that they learned long term is it doesn't let up. Like you don't get to that easy portion of the schedule in this league.
No, I think that's the thing that sucks the most is the fact that you did see how close they were at certain stretches. You did see, like you mentioned, okay, well, we just won these games and we're close against these really good teams. We should be able to blow out West Virginia on the road. We won these games. Okay, we're still battling close. We should be able to handle Oklahoma State at home pretty easily. And then you see those slip ups and the other games like that. The game at Oklahoma as well. And gosh, I imagine if the Bearcats were squarely on the bubble and a season like this happens with the 5 bid stealers in the NCAA tournament, I would lose my mind come Selection Sunday. If look at Oklahoma, they were the first team out was what they ended up being by the selection committee. I mean, Oklahoma had a stellar non-conference. They were right up there in a lot of metrics, but still, numerous teams were bid stealers, and all of a sudden Oklahoma was left out. And gosh, and you look at a team like NC State, Chad, that is like proof that literally it's just once you get into the tournament, anything can happen unless you're facing an absolute monster in UConn or Purdue. So should be interesting to see as things continue to develop in that sense. As far as it goes, the quick superlatives, if you will, it's the Chad's favorite time of the year, superlative season, just real fast as we dive in. The number one would be just favorite moment. Let's see everyone's favorite moment of the season as we continue to go. I'm going to go Chad, Aaron, Royer, all around the circle.
I'll go John Newman getting his flowers. Be it a great senior day performance from this fan base where they showed up early and they were loud,
yep.
Or be it right after he scored his 1,000th point. I always love when a fan base connects with the guy.
Yeah.
Because the guy represents, what the program stands for. And John did that this year, and the fan base embraced him, and he's going to be a guy that's remembered around here for a long time. Those things for me, those things tend to mean a little bit more because, one, it means I'm probably going to see a lot more of John Newman around here.
Okay.
Over the years because he feels comfortable and feels welcomed and feels, embraced by this fan base. So I know it's not an on-court deal, but I'll go with that.
I like that. Especially the 1,000 point. I thought it was really nice that they had that plan where they were going to stop the game and give him a 5-minute long standing ovation. That was a good job by the PA team there. Aaron, go ahead.
Burn the pot. I hear you. I don't know. I guess for me, it would be starting the Big 12 slate off with a win at BYU against a team that turned out to be at least measured pretty good. I don't know that I would actually personally call BYU pretty good. I think they were streaky, but they were good enough to make the tournament. And I guess that counts for something. But since I got a statement win there, entering the conference and getting a win right away, despite Trevin Nell's best performance of the season.
Yep.
So that was probably the highest moment for me. Close. Some of those dunks throughout the season, though, were definitely up there. Notably, a couple from Dan, a couple from John, and of course Day with his tomahawk and the alley-oop
monster
as well. Yeah.
Okay, Royer, what you got?
I think mine is the win at Texas Tech. I think hostile environment. They were kind of playing really well, and it was kind of a game I don't think a lot of people thought we had a chance to win. And we kind of found ourselves hanging in there right at the end and just be able to go get the win, kind of another big Big 12 statement win, which kind of said, wow, we got what it takes to not it was kind of like a moment where we weren't just close anymore. We finally got over that hump and we got a big signature win. And it was kind of a moment for me. I was like, my belief kind of grew a lot in this team where it went from I think we should definitely be a tournament team. This is the kind of team you're a tournament team if you're able to go in there and win a game like that. And it was like a game where they hit the game tying shot and you're like, well, all right, it was fun while it lasted. We're going to end up losing. But it was kind of like a big statement win for the program. I think it was a good kind of staple on a lot of momentum from 3 past years with Wes. But I think another close one was Kansas, but it's not as cool when they have all their guys injured. But it was kind of like a backs against the wall. We come in, win by 20 in like a dominant fashion against a blue blood team. But I'd have that in second place because they didn't have their guys, but I kind of liked how we showed up and literally we had to win out to make it. And it was like, oh wow, like 20-point win versus Kansas to stay alive in this thing. Like,
yeah,
it's a pretty good memory of the season.
Do you think that in like 5 years from now or 10 years from now, it'll be a 20-point win, but it'll have one of those little like stars or asterisks? It'll be like go to the bottom and say Kansas was without Kevin McCullough. And Hunter
no, but whoever's commentating that game is going to be sure to mention how that was a down year for Kansas.
You can see Fran in a dark alley.
It was
stuff. If Fran will say, "Hey, Hunter and McCullough were out."
It was a down year for Kansas. They didn't have the depth that Bill Self likes, and blah 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 blah. That's
Bill Self's fault, though. By the way,
as they gargle on Jayhawks.
Dude, that was not reckless, but I guess like Bill Self saying for the last month, he's been focusing on next year. That's just a wild comment. But I guess Bill Self can do whatever he wants. So,
we talked about this a little bit with him on this specific topic. Like, that's a guy that has won championships. He knows, like he knows his team is not capable of winning a national title this year.
Right.
He was well aware of that. He watched them every day. And he watched the guys that he recruited to be his pieces off the bench not be good enough. Like just flat out not good enough. And that was their problem.
Well, and also next year he's super confident that they're going to be really good. And actually on paper they do look like they can be if they return the pieces that they can bring back and then add to those. But
they will.
He broke Timberlake somehow. I don't know. This whole season was weird for them. One of my favorite moments, you guys have kind of all taken the major ones. It's a couple for me. Well, I'm going to say this for the next one, but is probably going to be I'm a big vibes guy. You know that. That Georgia Tech game, just the first game, Aziz is eligible, and like yes, obviously Georgia Tech was not expected to be any good this year, but still, golly, Fifth Third was rocking that night, and Cincinnati could not miss from 3 in the second half. Man, that was an all-time high vibes game. And Aziz checks in. First was the first play a block, and then second play was the alley-oop, or was it the other way around? I can't really remember, but either way, he showed you exactly what everyone was foaming at the mouth to see him do, and then he was able to.
I think it was the block first.
Block first, and the alley. Yeah, and it just was like, oh gosh, we're going to the Final Four. But high vibes on that night. There's no doubt about that. What about top storyline, whether it be off the court, on the court? Just go throughout. Anyone could hop in first. Aaron, let's go with you first.
Top storyline would have to be the injuries. Whether you want to talk about, getting hit by a car for Seamus Lukosius, whether it was Aziz when he finally got on the court getting injured and doing what had to be done to get back on the court, whether it was CJ Frederick and the time that he missed. Aziz, I don't know.
His back.
I mentioned that.
Okay, my bad.
Day breaking his foot at the end of the year. But I think that if you're not talking about the two centers missing the time, then it's probably the injuries.
All right. Chad, you agree?
I think for me, the biggest storyline, at least as it pertains to going into next year, is Jizzle James and the 2 games that he started.
Oh yeah.
Like that sets a completely different tone for this offseason than if that didn't happen. Like now you were given a glimpse at, okay, this is Jizzle James in a feature role instead of a I was more, I don't want to say he was in a supporting role because his role was more important than that, but like stepping into the spotlight and him coming out and having those 2 games was huge. And again, I laugh that people think this is a knock, but us starting to come up with that that understanding that if Jizzle James is better than you, you're getting cooked.
Yeah.
Like if he's got a favorable matchup, he just goes in attack mode, and it's a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
Could you say 6th man to starter? I don't know. Would he have been the 6th man on this team with as much minutes as he played?
I guess the problem is he was never the first guy to go in because it was always usually
for a while.
Dan going in for whoever was playing the 4.
They also run hockey style rotations.
Not nearly as bad as you guys think, but
well, no, the craziest stat I thought was on senior night when they posted the starters or whatnot, and it was, I forget who it was making their first start of the year. But
guys started.
No, yeah, it was Jizzle. It was Jizzle who got the first career start after Day injured his foot, and it was 10 different players have started at least 1 game for the Bearcats this year. Like, that's an unbelievable stat. Unbelievable. And you got 13 scholarship players. One of those is a redshirt. Another is Sage, who obviously saw a little time here and there, but not one that you would see in the starting lineup. The other is Josh Reed, who obviously had carved out a bench role. But 10 different starters, and 0 of them being walk-ons during senior night or something. So that's an insane stat to me. Chad, and obviously this is not like an apples to apples thing, but think about how amazing it would be if it is Jizzle in the starting lineup and Day comes in off the bench, just having an ace defender off the bench to just harass the opposing team's backup point guard or harass their starting point guard who's starting to get a little bit tired. It's just, I see a win-win.
Yeah, it would be a very nice luxury if everything plays out that way. Or you go in with a starting backcourt of Jizzle and Day. Yeah. And I think you're fine with that too. You've got 2 ball handlers, 2 guys who know how to run the offense. One that you lean on as like your main defense priority, and then the other one is your pop offensively. I don't think that's the plan. I think they would like to go out and add a starter, at guard next to one of the point guards. But I'm just saying, like, if that's where it lands and you've got 2 guys that can really go, I mean, I think you feel pretty good about what you learned this season about both of them. And back to storylines, what was the storyline coming into the season? Could the 2 point guards that had never dribbled a ball in Division I basketball, could they make the jump? And the answer was a resounding yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure, there were moments for each.
Sure, they weren't flawless. Nobody's saying they were the best, the best point guard position in the country.
Basketball in the NCAA tournament. Well, probably not, but it would be a different story.
Right.
Yeah. I thought they performed. Speaking of expectations, they performed higher than expectations for them.
I agree.
Royer, you got a top storyline for me from the season?
I'm kind of volleying off of Chad here with just the emergence of the backcourt towards the end of the year. Day, Jizzle, and then CMOS. I think it just sets us up really well for next year. Kind of like how I mentioned earlier. I think it really is the most important part of what we've learned this season, and I think it's going to be what's going to keep us in a lot of games next year.
Yeah, I think a lot of it for me as well, storyline wise, is just the fact that they were so close in so many games, and it's one of those scenarios where Chad, there was a year with Mick where it seemed like every game came to end of the game situation, and Mick was able to win a handful of them, and they led to them going into the tournament. And I think they either won the first game. It might have been the year with might have been the St. Joe's year, actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, it's just one of those where you come out on the right side of a couple of those and you're talking a different tune. SWA tournament too, this, that, and the other. But for
Sure,
me,
but also if you walk out on the different side of losing a
right,
couple of
then
those close ones,
you've got a 3 and
yeah, then you've
15
got
finish and
a whole different
yeah.
set of questions to answer going into year 2.
Yep, and a loss at Howard on top of it all. So yeah. For me,
House in the house.
Jesus, that'll go down there. The Bowling Green still is at the top for me. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, Jess was unbelievable.
Unreal. Karen was on that team too. Just a wild.
I know that just takes it even 4 steps higher.
A wild stat. I think another one for me is kind of what Royer was saying, to just CMOS kind of developing into that awesome end of game closer. Just game winning shots is awesome. And he had a plethora of them, game winning or tying or go ahead shots. And the couple that he missed just showed that hey, he's not afraid to keep shooting and to keep trying to be that guy to answer the call at the end. And I think it just proves how valuable of a piece he is as the team continues on to next year. So I like those. MVP, Chad, I think I know where you're going with this one. But
I think it has to be John.
Yeah.
Long term, I mean, I know he hit a little bit of a scoring slump at the very tail end of the regular season. But I just, in terms of setting the tone and being the leader, I don't think anyone was more important in keeping this group together.
Yeah.
And doing things that they needed to do to keep them in games. Like I think John was responsible for a lot of that. So I'm sure we'll get CMOS here. We might get a Dan here. For me, the guy that most consistently impacted winning was John.
I will piggyback off of that and also say John. And I will say it was probably magnified by the fact that after he got injured, you found out how important he really was to this team, as the defense never quite got to that same level. And I'd venture to guess that he probably had some of that rib injury still nagging throughout the rest of the season.
And it was literally immediately where you found that out in that West Virginia game. So, yes.
Yeah. But we missed the high-flying John Newman the rest of the season, as we never really got to see him doing what he had done earlier in the season in that regard. But it forced John to find his shots, and I feel like that became streaky John a little bit. But like I said, I think that it was all magnified by the fact that with that injury, how important he was as a cog of this machine that made it all work.
Roy, are you piggybacking off these guys?
I think I'm going to turn to CMOS. I think he was like our go-to bucket almost the back quarter of the year, at least for sure. I think he just kind of like carried us through a lot of games offensively, even though I think John might have had a more, I guess, well-rounded value, so to say. But I think there were just times where CMOS kind of carried us through games and kept us alive. So I think going into next year, I think we need him to kind of carry that torch. So
for sure,
he's my MVP.
Yeah, I'm going to continue.
I don't argue with it at all.
Right. I'm going to continue to go against the grain, not kind of roll with the. I mean, John and CMOS are obviously right up there, if not at the top. I'll say Dan, just to continue the plethora of good options. I mean, something about Dan, when he is on and flips the switch to kind of take over a game, and he does take over a game, that normally ends pretty well for the Bearcats. I thought his rebounding is the main thing that obviously just jumps off the page, and it's going to be a reason why, as you're seeing, kind of all over, is the traditional multiple bigs. Even though I guess you look at the Final Four, and each team except for Alabama, I would say, has the traditional 2 bigs with a 5 and a 4. But either way, you can kind of be flexible with lineups due to the fact that Dan is such a plus rebounder throughout the year. So I'd put Dan up there. If not MVP, quasi MVP, and then another rough one would be Aziz, defensive MVP if we had to go with that, with John. up there. So a lot of good options, a lot of options. But that's that. How about a most improved? Someone like from beginning of the season to the end of the season where you were like, wow. We'll tie this in with the buy stock now as well. Most improved and like a player that you can buy stock in now. Aaron, we'll start with you.
I'll say probably Jizzle, especially if you're talking about the buy stock now. What we saw as a raw freshman in the non-con does not resemble what Jizzle James was in the last 2 games of the NIT in any way, shape, or form. That was an evolution of sorts that we all got to bear witness to over the course of the season. And he is firmly entrenching himself in the conversation for must start next season. So
I think that'd be the bona fide answer. But yeah, Royer, what you got?
Keeping it consistent with CMOS. I think,
Okay.
like I mentioned to it a couple of weeks ago, he kind of was supposed to be a kind of game manager kind of guy, a guy who's going to average right around 10 points, get some rebounds, some assists, kind of control the ball for us on offense. I think he really turned into like our cold-blooded killer, like putting up well over 20 points like several times to finish the year. Put up almost 40 points one game. Clutch moments, like getting him the ball to win the game is kind of what we were leaning on back half of the season. So, but I don't think when he was coming in, I don't think that was the expectation. And I think like that, I think there's a huge jump from expectation to what reality was at the end of the year for him.
Well, yeah. Well, and you throw in the fact that, I mean, Wes came out and said that he was hurt all year with just nagging injuries. And that he was finally starting to hit his full potential during that final stretch, which is just wild, after playing for an entire year, battling through whatever injuries you were going through. And then all of a sudden you're going out there and, shooting unbelievably well from 3 and obviously being the guy who put the team on your back. So, yeah, I mean, CMOS, he's showing things. Chad, what you got?
I really don't think this one is close in terms of who improved the most from the beginning of the season to the end. Dan Skillings.
Okay. Yeah.
Like he was wild. Like even by Dan standards at the beginning of the season, there were some nights that were like, what was that?
Yeah.
And by the end of the year, there were still moments, but for the most part, he had become, instead of these wild swings from like 17 one night and 2 the next.
Yeah.
Even on his bad nights, he was at, 10, 11, 12 points. And it wasn't on like drastically bad efficiency.
Right.
So I just think in terms of like the guy who improved the most throughout the season, with like incremental steps along the way. Like to Aaron's point, like I like the Jizzle answer, but it seemed like it happened in just like an explosion over the final 10 games.
Right.
Where, there were little blips that we saw like, okay, it's coming. But then he got to the end and it was just like, where Dan was more gradual throughout the process. And really, what was it, that first Oklahoma game where he didn't score?
1 point. Yeah.
Yeah. From there on, like the growth was exponential. So, Ryan, you are right. CMOS did improve drastically once he healed from getting hit by a fucking car.
I told you last week that we should be thanking that car driver. It kind of knocked the new CMOS into him.
Or it kept us
that
3 weeks from
Luka
seeing
Doncic
the real,
hit him.
It kept us a month from seeing the actual CMOS because he was recovering from going through the windshield of a car.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, he actually was dealing with a little bit of a foot injury, a foot sprain. So there was a couple things that kind of limited him early, but then obviously where he finished was outstanding. I think he probably would have been a little closer to that early had someone not literally run him over in the middle of the road.
That is still one of the craziest parts. Like Wes comes into the coach's show. Sorry, I'm a little late. Seamoss got hit by a car. It's like, whoa, what? Like,
what do you mean? Got
when
hit
I
by a
first
car?
heard that, I was like, wait, what? I was like,
only this program.
Yeah,
has a guy just walking back to the dorms or apartments and gets destroyed by a moving vehicle.
You should see the other guy. Is what Seamoss said. But
right.
But either way,
I'm pretty sure someone got killed on that right around that same spot.
Oh yeah,
too.
people get hit there all the time.
Yeah, it's they finally put in speed bumps.
Yeah,
down that
they had
street.
to.
Wait, it was that street along the
Jefferson.
It's Jefferson, right next to where the practice facility is going. Yeah,
that's what I thought. Yeah, it's a rough road. But
right when we moved out, man, the sheriffs were out of town. Traffic was getting nuts. So there wasn't. We used to have Bert do traffic, be a traffic cop. He used to have a shirtless with a yellow vest on. He used to go down there and wave his hands around to direct traffic, try to make some side money. But we don't get to do that no more, man. We're too old.
Ryan, this is the result of admission going up, like the enrollment numbers going up because of the success of the Peach Bowl and the Sugar Bowl years. Mm-hmm. And now there's just campus is too crowded and you can't walk across the street safely.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm with
all comes back to the great football the great football teams we had in 21 and 22, 20 and 21.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
that is thank you to the 20 and 21 teams for having Seamoss have a killer second half of the season. Thank you.
Full circle.
Full circle.
Thank you to the Central Florida fan that tried to run him over.
Yes, amen. And that is that.
Not tried to run him over, did run him over.
Successfully did, but didn't do well. I did well enough because Seamoss took off. But yeah, Aaron, Ryan, I agree with you guys, but I'm gonna go with Chad too. I think if Dan takes that next step in development, everyone talks about needing to have an NBA guy or two on a team to be special. I think Dan is an NBA guy. Fits all the intangibles that you want out of an NBA wing. If he can just develop the outside shot a little bit more, ball handling a little bit more. I think Dan has every makings of an NBA talent. So buy stock now, and most improved for me is Dan Skillings. But Aaron, Jizzle showed me something. And old Edric James with the old Insta story saying with the Wolf of Wall Street, we're coming back. I decipher that as you will. I don't know. But yeah.
I wouldn't take it to it's not gossip. When the kid says it, the kid says it.
Right.
I wouldn't be running to the presses to print that is 100% official. Yeah. Is it a good sign? Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You want dad on board, especially a Hall of Fame dad. But I'm not taking that as official word from the James camp. That
especially a Hall of Fame dad who wore more University of Miami stuff to Cincinnati games this year than he did Cincinnati stuff to Cincinnati games.
Went to Miami.
I understand where he went to school, but
Aaron, what are you talking about? That one guy who they showed at the UCF game at UCF, he was decked out in Cincinnati.
He was, and it was labeled as Edger and James.
That was Jizzle's dad. Yeah.
That was not Jizzle's dad. We all know that was
Aaron. I believe everything I see on TV. And the TV said that was Jizzle's dad. So I'm going to believe him.
Yeah.
Why would they lie to me, Aaron? Why would they lie to me?
He had all the UC gear in the world.
Head to toe, UC gear. He was bout it, as Master P used to say.
I can't with two people.
Golly. Last one, and we'll kind of tie this into the portal talk. It's what aspect of the team would you say needs improvement the most whether it be development from certain aspects on the team or certain players on the team, or whether it be additions needed out the portal, or whether it be someone needing to step up. Just main one to kind of take it over the hump, if you will. Needs improvement.
Shooting. It's basketball in 2024. Like,
yeah,
you cannot. The problem wasn't like, and for most of the season, their numbers were really bad. But the problem is you can't have these wild swings where one night you hit, 9 threes and the next night you hit 2.
Right.
Like it's not sustainable. It's not good trying to go through a conference like this when you're trying to plan for what you're good at. And the biggest part of the game in 2024, some nights you're at 18% and some nights you're at 42%. And the problem with that, everybody's going to have those nights. The problem with Cincinnati was there were very few nights in between. There weren't a lot of nights at 37, 38%, which is ultimately where like you want your percentages to be, is in that, a tick above 35, right at 36, 37%. If you can do that as a team, you're in great shape. But far too often it was one night 42, one night 12, one night 27, and then, one night 48. That's really hard to coach when you don't have any grasp on how consistent your shooting is going to be, especially home away.
Yeah.
I was also going to say shooting, but I'm going to build on what Chad was saying and say not just field goal percentage, but also 3-point percentage, also free throw percentage. I'd be okay even if rebounding took a hit at the cost of making more shots. Be totally okay with all of that. I don't know.
Well, I was very specifically talking about 3-point percentage.
I understand.
Okay.
But
I didn't make that clear. Like, very specifically, be better from 3.
Well, but also free throws were tough at points this season.
At the first half, like the first half of Big 12, they were. I thought they got a lot better. Yeah,
it got better, but it was still tough at points this season. And field goal percentage from 2, layups were abysmal throughout the season from start to finish. The highest percentage shot that you should be making is a fucking layup, and this team struggled all year with layups and dunks, usually somewhere around 50%.
Yeah,
and to piggyback on that, Aaron, my biggest stat of the season that came into picture like at the very end is that they were one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country and one of the worst teams in the country at second chance points.
Yeah.
They were in the 22nd percentile in converted offensive rebounds. 78% of the country was better at converting offensive rebounds than Cincinnati. When you're number 1, boy, you don't want to be last in scoring off of those opportunities.
Yeah.
And that goes back to making layups and dunks, Aaron. Like being strong around the rim and putting the ball in the basket.
I think Jizzle from between 10 and 20 feet probably shot a higher percentage than this team did at shooting layups or 3-pointers for the year, which is an insane statistic, if actually true.
Yeah, probably up there. I know I was really bad at the breaking news aspect on the BBP in recent episodes, but somewhat breaking news. Vic Locken has gone to Instagram. He said, "Thank you, people in University of Cincinnati. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for bringing me to America. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll always be a Bearcat. I'm proud to be one. I give back to the University of Cincinnati. My time in America will always be associated with the University of Cincinnati and the Queen City. Peace." So, as the offseason unfolds, there's that on Instagram from old Vic Locken. But yeah, we'll touch on that after we hear Royer's thoughts on what needs improvement the most for the program as they take the next step.
Yeah, I agree with you guys, especially with the 3-point shooting. But what I also think they need is inside offensive post presence. I mentioned it last week. Aziz having such a strong post defensive presence. It's shocking how absent his presence is on the offensive side of things. And we mentioned we thought we get a little bit more from Jamil than we actually did. So that's something that we're going to have to figure out, whether it's development and leaning on our guys next year, or going to have to pick someone up who can really have an actual post-up presence. I mean, look what that the Burns guy is doing from NC State. I mean, I'm not saying like I expect to have someone of that. But like someone that can get him the ball down low. He can create within 5 feet. He can use post moves. It's just something that we don't really have. Like the whole thing with the Z's was, well, we can lob it up to him, and we've seen how poorly we've been able to do that and execute that. But we need some sort of interior offensive game, because it just puts the defense in a bind. It gives you more options, cutting away, moving away from the basketball. I think we're going to need to figure that out going into next year. So I think it's a really big missing piece for us.
Yeah, it's crazy. And we, point out all these things offensively that needs fixed. It speaks to how solid they were defensively. Obviously, losing John Newman now is something that needs to be
that hurts.
replaced. But I mean, Dan was really developing defensively. Day obviously is a phenomenal defender. It'll be interesting to see what they do out of the portal, trying to add.
You'll have Aziz at the rim.
There. Yeah, Aziz at the rim obviously is monstrous. So, it'll be fun to see what pieces are put together and kind of go from there. And because obviously this is portal season in college basketball, and if you don't see it, it happens every doggone day. And Aaron, yes, I still get every doggone notification, and so it's fun. It is it's not fun. It's a crazy time. But one, Chad, I thought John Cunningham did a really good job too, kind of saying, hey, this is, speaking on NIL and things of that sort. Hey, this is, he thinks that it's all going to work out in the end. It's just going to take a couple more years to get everything figured out and heading in the right direction. But he thinks that it's going to be all good in the end. So we'll see what happens there and go from there. Before we wrap up the B-ball talk, any update on any portal entries or portal targets, if you will, Chad? Or is that more of a head on to the board where it's an entire laundry
generally
list?
Head on to the board until news happens, and then we'll talk about it here like after it's public.
Yeah. Yep. Well, then I guess if that's that, then I guess we can timestamp and head on to the next step.
All right, that timestamp brought to you by our good friends at Quick Paper Supply. They are a local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. They service over 150 restaurants with weekly low minimum next-day deliveries, providing a wide range of food service products from to-go containers, cups, custom printed products, eco-friendly, and much more. They also have cleaning and restroom supplies for all your janitorial needs. Call Nick, 513-470-2029, and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases.
Boom, baby. Well, Royer, before we dive into the Ripping with Royer segment, would you like to make your first public, I guess, remarks to the viral Sauce Gardner video that came out when he was with, who was that, Aiden Ross, who he was with, and a couple of the streaming boys, if you will?
Yeah. I'm just glad that people get to they get roped in on all the fun we used to have in the locker room. Definitely, it happened a lot more frequently than you'd imagine, and I also kind of want to
go walking around in a sock.
Yeah, Ahmad was a big fan. He was a big encourager. He loved like sicking me on guys with it. He's like, he sees one guy having a tough time over there in the DB section. He's like, Roar, do the sock. Please do the sock, bro. Please, like, go, please.
So Sauce initiated this, and then acted
Oh,
like
he
you
loved it,
just
man.
randomly did it.
Oh, I did it one time and he thought it was the funniest thing ever. So he like, because you remember Justin Harris?
Yeah.
He did not like it, but like every time I just kind of like I'd break him in and get him to like, he's like, all right, man, all right, whatever. And then he'll dap me up. Because I wouldn't stop messing with him until he like dapped me up. But there were some days where I was threatened, violently threatened, while butt ass naked with a sock over my junk. So I'm always like, you really want to go at it with me like this? Is this how you want to square up with the
people wanted to fight, like legit wanted to fight you for doing it?
Dude, guys would get mad as hell. They'd be like, get that shit away from me. Like, I mean, I there's other words that you could use your imagination.
Well, I'm hey, bro, I'm not going to touch you with it. I promise. Like, it's
like
not.
We do it to the like Brody Engel. He loved it. Like, he would get on the Lime scooter and he would do it with the sock on and just go around the locker room in the sock. Or like I'd weigh in with like the strength coaches just to mess with them, like with the sock on, and they'd be like, "What is wrong with you?" They'd be like, "They're so mad," because they had to like write my weight down. I'm just standing there with my hands on my hips, just like butt cheeks out.
Okay.
I mean, we had a lot of fun, but it was never any hazing. It was always just a couple of dumbasses just liking to embarrass themselves, kind of show off all the hard work we were putting into the weight room. Wanted to make sure our bodies were looking good, making sure all the guys could kind of check in on us, that we were getting that good strength development in. But, you got to cover up some parts. So we had to use big ass socks,
Monster
sock. Your sock didn't have to be that big, did it?
I could have used a baby glove, but I just decided to go with a long ass white sock just to embellish a little bit.
So you said on the day, you said you had it sent to you like hundreds of times. What was your initial reaction when you saw the clip?
I was at my parents' house. It was in the basement. It was me and my brother were helping my mom and dad move a couch out of the basement, and like my brother knew the story, so we're laughing our asses off. Then I'm explaining it to my mom, and that was it was an interesting conversation.
On Easter weekend of all weekends, right?
No, because it came out first the weekend before. And next, I'm getting like random DM requests from like random accounts on Instagram. Like, hey, check this out. It's like a link to like the stream. I'm like, oh, Ahmad probably told like a funny story about me. And then
he did.
And then it like got clipped. It got clipped. And then it went viral last weekend on TikTok because it was getting sent to me on Twitter the weekend before. And I just thought it was hilarious because like we always joked about it, like, Royer, just wait till one of these guys tells the stories about all the shit we used to do and all like the dumbass shit you used to do to the guys. I'm like, yeah, we'll see. Maybe we can get some fame out of that. But lo and behold, the sock, like the fan was always something that it was a little more PG. It was kind of universally loved, but the sock was definitely a team favorite. And I didn't know if it would ever get out in the public though.
It did.
Yeah. It did. And it makes it even funnier. It's like the number one, it's like Speed and Aiden Ross, two of the biggest streamers in the world, are listening to me doing one of the dumber things that happened in the locker. Just like, I just thought it was so changing my name, man. I was just like, man, what are the odds?
Well, I mean, it's an awesome thing. If I'm gonna have a story told about myself, I'd be okay with it being that.
Yeah.
Look at wow, Ryan, thanks for the name change. It fits nice.
One of Aaron and Chad just put that on. Someone's got the jokes going.
It works. Well, that's a great lead into riffing with Royer. Chad, you want to get that read in while Sacco hangs out and gets ready for his questions?
It's Sacco. I mean, you're gonna have to do ripping with Royer with the sock on, like Sacco,
Oh my God. There's no way I'm doing that.
like Mick Foley.
There's
Ripping
one
with
picture.
Royer, and all of a sudden you give it one of these.
You'll never
and then
see it though.
Sacco, here it comes.
Yeah. You have to ask
Oh,
Will Adams for that picture, but hopefully that never sees the light. There's
you
one
shouldn't have told me who
photo
to
evidence.
ask. You shouldn't have told me who to ask. New rip, fiercely independent. Go ahead. What?
I was just saying, if you can track that down, I'll let you have it.
All right.
Frame it.
New Riff, fiercely independent and unabashedly innovative. New Riff produces award-winning bourbon, rye whiskey, and gin at their distillery in Newport, Kentucky. The Aquafire Tasting Room, located on the third floor of the distillery, features cocktails, flights, and pours of New Riff's entire line of spirits, including rare, limited edition, and distillery exclusive releases. Bearcat Journal listeners can save 50% off on a distillery tour when they use the code Bearcats24. All lowercase, Bearcats, and then the number 24. For more information or to book a tour, visit newriffdistilling.com.
Bingo.
This is the single barrel is my new favorite. Like,
Did you
it
get
is-
another one, or is that still empty?
No, it's still been sitting. I haven't it just for a prop.
Right.
Figure
I like the prop.
Yeah, we'll keep it here.
I mean, the bottle's cool as shit.
The bottle's great. The bourbon is great. Great. So highly recommend. New Riff. This is the single barrel. It's a barrel pick. This one was 103.9 proof. And it was very good.
Good morning.
Very good.
Good.
Yep.
Well, Mr. Royer.
Boys. All right.
Let's do
So we saw the clip of Mr. Drogosh had a big pick today. Great play up, Chad. I like your tweet. Yeah, following up the seam. One of the harder things to do at linebacker, yet alone get a pick. That is
get a hand on it,
awesome.
Tip it in the air to himself, and catch it.
Yeah. That's huge,
On his third day playing defense. He didn't play defense in high school.
A personal tip drill. Personal tip drill.
Shows the athletic ability he has, the natural football instinct. Do you guys ever see a future with Brady Drogosh taking meaningful snaps at linebacker at some point in his Cincy career?
I don't think it'll be this year. I do think this year, with his size and athleticism, he could become a mainstay on special teams. If he's that invested into earning his way on the field at linebacker. The hard part is we don't know like how he takes to everything, but from all indications, he knows football. He's a football, guy that's been playing his whole life. So I do think there is a decent chance, given his measurables and given his athleticism and his athletic traits, that down the road we're talking about him on the 2 deep and pushing up for a number one spot. It won't be this year, but I do think eventually it's coming.
I got to see him tackle. I got to see him in like a goal line tackle drill.
Sure.
That is the true litmus test. How does he stick his nose in there? Because, playing quarterback, man, it's always about trying to avoid getting hit. And I'm not saying that he's like a soft guy or anything, but it's a whole different ball game, going from taking a hit, stepping up in the pocket versus having to go be the hammer and actually deliver the hit on someone.
What you got?
I guess.
Yeah, I'm with Chad. I think it's well, obviously everyone points to the whole Joel Lanning, where it was a movement from quarterback to linebacker during Tyson Vite's time as a coach, as a linebacker coach with Iowa State. How he went on to be an All-American and was a top of the line linebacker after the position change. And I mean, I see similarities. I think number one with linebackers, other than the ones that are just naturally God gifted, kind of maniacs, you got to have someone who has the physical attributes, but also someone who is just an absolute beast in the weight room. And by all accounts, from what Nico has told us, and from what we've been able to gather, is the facts that he gets after it in the weight room. and is one of the strongest dudes, one of the fastest dudes. And I think when that's the makeup of what you're transferring over, yeah, I get what you're saying, right, about, what does he do when it's a 230-pound goal line running back coming straight at him? Is he going to step up and lay the blow, or is he going to be the one that kind of takes the contact? But I think we do see some, because I think he's just got the tools already. That 6'4" frame, looks like he can add some weight to that, to the body and the athleticism as well.
I mean, he's long. Like when we talk about Cincinnati didn't look like some of the other Big 12 teams, if Brady Drogosh gets up to that, 230 range, whatever, like 6'4", 6'5", 230, long arms, can run. That's what we were talking about. That's what Cincinnati didn't have a whole lot of last year. He would give them, something they didn't have.
I wouldn't think you would take a guy from a quarterback position and move them to another position, move them to especially a position on defense, if you didn't think they could handle it. And so I
agree.
think I'm with the other guys that I got to think that, they moved Evan Prater to receiver, A, because he destroyed his shoulder and couldn't throw the ball anymore, but B, because they thought he could do it. They're moving Drogosh to linebacker, I believe, because they think he can do it. Otherwise, I think they would be like, hey, we don't know what we have with you at quarterback, and let him test the portal. So I don't know. I'm thinking that they don't want to let him go because they do believe in him at linebacker.
What about Alec Pierce? Trying to move him to linebacker, is that a good exception of something that was
that lasted less time than this has already lasted?
I mean, I think Alec could have probably been solid, though. Do
you think Alec could have been a NFL linebacker?
No, like a good college linebacker.
But he was an NFL wide receiver.
Yeah,
Alec didn't want to hit you.
Yeah, I think he wouldn't have been.
But like,
he'll agree with me there.
Not like a middle linebacker, but like a, what was it? The same position that like
the sniper.
But yeah, no, I think they did the right thing at wide receiver, 100%.
Yep.
All right, you got another one for us, Mr. Roya?
I do. Do you imagine anything changing, so to say, or like hyper fixating from last year that you think that would work the best with Sorsby in terms of the offensive play calling? Do you think there's going to be a lot of changes? Do you think we're going to end up kind of trending more towards one part of the offense that we saw last year, or do you think we're going to see something completely different?
I want to answer first on this one because I hope they run the exact same offense, but this time we can actually get the ball to the guys who are running wide open down the field. I can't wait for that.
I think the offense will be pretty similar. You're still going to have some of the quarterback run stuff because I think Sorsby is pretty good at it, better than maybe people think. But yeah, to Aaron's point, like there were plenty of plays to be made in this offense last year that the quarterback play just wasn't good enough to make. And if that's the case, you would hope a new quarterback would make that a little better.
Yeah, I think
it also sounds like you've upgraded at the second receiver spot a little bit as well. So I think that should cause some matchup issues as well. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no. I think with Sorsby, I like obviously Chad and Keegan have been knocking it out of the park with the practice reports, but Dave was able to sprinkle in a little bit, and he kind of didn't directly compare Sorsby to Jay Cutler, but kind of has similar throwing motions and similar ability to kind of scoot around the pocket and whatnot. So I think you just have a full different dynamic to the offensive approach. But I think if you're able to kind of dominate the line of scrimmage and really move the football running, rushing the ball, that's going to open up so much more in the passing game. So I think, yes, I think we'll see the similar play calling, but I think it'll be a balanced attack type.
There was something we didn't see all of last year at practice today. There was like a crossing route or like a shallow cross from Xavier Henderson.
Yeah.
And we didn't see him do anything but like run go routes or stop routes. Like he had 2 routes in his route tree as far as Emory Jones was concerned. And if you can take your number 1 guy and have him running multiple parts of the route tree, then that opens it up for everything else, because and they're going to take their boundary corner and just say, this is the only 2 things this guy does. He goes deep or he stops. And everything else is kind of inconsequential. We don't have to worry about a safety. We don't have to worry about him over the middle. We don't have to worry about deep posts, or he didn't really do any of that stuff. Right. So if you have a guy that can get it to him, then it makes life a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah.
So was it kind of reminiscent of kind of like the offense you're running with Ben Bryant a little bit more intermediate concepts with Denbrock, how Denbrock was mixing that in? Or
I think it's hard, Ryan, to differentiate, because I think those elements were there last year, and Emory Jones just wasn't good at
couldn't make connecting. It. Yeah.
So it ended up being like, I mean, Aaron and I talked about this a ton after games. Like, it was like, okay, 3 steps, look at your number 1 option, come off of your number 1 option to your hot route, and then run. And that was it. Like, there was no backside. Yeah. And Aaron, I'm sure a part of the reason that everybody was open on the backside is because defense is new. He wasn't getting over there.
No, you're right. But that's that's why I hope we run the same offense, because dudes were running free.
Sure. Yeah. I agree.
You know what? The whole, talking about Emory, how he kind of was just a 1-read guy and then kind of panic and tuck and run or this, that, and the other, try and squeeze it in there. When you do have a guy who's confident in his arm, he could look at the second read real fast and sling it in there in a second, or look at the, glance at the second read, look at the third read and kind of get it in there in time. And it's different, obviously, if it's a full on pass rush and you really, O-line can't hold it. But I think if you have a quarterback who has that ability, knowing that he can kind of sling it real fast, he's going to be able to read it quicker. And like you guys have both said, same offense, but different ripples, because now, Satterfield sees he's got a little bit different of a signal caller back there. So I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. It's what's the O-line looking like? They could block last year in the running game. They were excellent blocking. If you didn't think they were good blocking the run game, I don't know what sport you were watching.
I think that
were they good blocking in the passing game? No, they weren't.
That's the question's getting to.
Yeah. Well, that's not how it's worded.
We couldn't block last year with the running backs. We have to be able to run. We have to be able to run because we couldn't pass block, I think is the point.
Yeah. Now, the hard part about that is right now, your 2 guards are out. It's all good, D. Johnson. I'm just saying, I like to read that. It just sounds like blocking in general. The run blocking was very good. The pass blocking was very not good. The tackles have looked better. It is still really hard to judge a lot of that. One, when the defense is still learning the scheme. So your defense, like Ryan will tell you, Freeman used to just mess with the offense in practice because he could. Like, he would dial up stuff on some days where, people would just be pissed. Like, oh, that's what we're doing on defense today? Like, we're not just out here going what we know against what we know. You're gonna mess with us the entire day. And Freeman was like, yeah, I am. I'm gonna mess with you probably tomorrow too, because I can. We're not there yet with Tyson Vite and the installation of his defense. So I don't want to get too ahead of my skis that that the offensive line has looked significantly better, but we have not seen as much of the take the snap, take 2 steps, and at times just have to bail because it's, a waterfall effect off the edges to the quarterback. Mm-hmm. So I think that's good. I think as we continue to go through this week and into next week, we'll continue to get a little bit of a better feel for that. O-line had a rough day today, especially run blocking in tight quarters. I think there's 3 different plays where there was a defensive lineman waiting for the handoff and then just wrapped up the running back immediately. It's like, okay, well, that's a good play by that guy, but that's a big circle and a star on hike, and then guys standing in the backfield next to the quarterback waiting for him to make a decision. Those usually aren't good.
It was like my spring game performance.
It was exactly what you did to Landon Fickle in the spring game. Yeah.
Go down in history. Looks like Micah Coleman had a really big day.
Coleman had a big day. Kamari Burns has
I've
been
seen him pop up a
showing
lot. Yeah. Okay.
He's
All
been
right.
playing nose. He's been playing a little outside. So he's a guy they obviously see with some versatility. And he's been making some plays. Micah Coleman was really good today. He looks like he just looks the part when you see him standing on the edge.
Right. Yeah. I'm excited. Royer, Sacco, you got one more? What are we doing?
That's all I got for this week.
All right.
The Vic, you want to hit on that real quick?
Yeah, we should probably touch on it. Yeah, I read the Instagram post. Obviously, it's found its way to the board quite a lot, and so obviously we might as well. Go ahead.
That was expected. We were going to get to it here or a little bit earlier, but it kind of, I think he's looking for a fresh start. It sucks that it ended like this because Vic had a really important career here.
Yeah.
Came in under Brannon. Injuries caused him to miss his first year. Had to deal with COVID in a new country without any of his people. Just a really, really difficult situation for a guy to live through. Mm-hmm. Vic persevered. He had a fantastic career here at Cincinnati. It did not come to the conclusion I think that he would want, or that the program would want. And he kind of whimpered out of town, which is unfortunate. But you have to appreciate a guy that stuck through everything that he stuck through, and very easily could have left, when Wes got the job, and gone and done whatever. I've seen some reports on what the portal or Europe, but I mean, I haven't talked to Vic specifically. That came out as we were doing this. I don't know inherently what his plans are. I know, like I said in the past, I think I don't know how the student visa thing works. Like if you graduate or like what happens if you're a grad student. I'm not that dialed in on that. I knew it was something that was of interest.
Did they fix the NIL thing for foreign students?
They just found loopholes.
The loopholes. I didn't know if it was all in,
No. Those are problems with work visas.
Right.
So, but I don't know what exactly his plans are. More power to him either way. He was a good dude. He was a good teammate. I know the guys loved him. I know they loved having him around. So sucks to see him go. Would have preferred in a perfect world if he had found a way to continue to be on the roster next year, but not how it worked out. So that's life in the portal era.
And for me, I wish there was a more proper send off, because yes, there goes a lot to, the passing of a baton from one coaching regime to the other. Chad, I remember you and I going to the games during the COVID year with no fans in the stands and just watching Vic just drain 3 after 3 during warm-ups and whatnot. And it's just like, wow, okay, this guy's looking nice. Then obviously he stuck it out, and he had some really big games in the beginning of the West years to kind of upstart, what Wes is trying to do and growing Cincinnati basketball back up to what we all know and it is. And so a proper send off would be the only thing. It sucked that things were, became a bit of a struggle down the stretch and whatnot, and then the other. So, but hats off to Vic. He was always hilarious to the media. Always was a good guy to the fans as well. And he's going to be he'll always be the number one Russian comedian in my heart, no doubt. No doubt. Aaron, anything more on Vic?
Nope, you pretty much encapsulated everything there with a very niche little spot in your heart.
Niche. Name one other Russian comedian. I don't think I could.
Exactly. How's that not a niche spot?
Okay, fine.
You know the definition of niche?
Number one comedian. Not
Yakov Smirnov. Was he from Russia?
Sounds like it. A little vodka. A little vodka in your cup. The Smirnoff. But yeah. Good old Vic. Good old Vic. He was a main feature in one of my favorite parts of this past season, that Georgia Tech game, baby. Rain and triples from the outside. But yeah. Sad, but hey, welcome to college sports and college basketball, especially in the year 2024. It's a wild, wild west out there. Should we anything more on football chat from today, or anything that you've gathered? I mean, obviously there was more and more on the recaps and whatnot. It seems like it's kind of things are going back and forth, offense, defense, and big moments out of each one. I guess one name that I do want to bring up that you've been kind of mentioning more is Chance Williams is the running back, obviously transferred from Grambling State. It seems like he's been starting to get a lot more notoriety from big long runs. Is he kind of starting to have his stamp on what he could potentially bring to the team this year, or obviously in years to come?
I mean, I think a lot of it right now is that, you're pretty set that Corey Kiner is your number one. I think it's pretty clear Evan Pryor is going to be your number two.
Right.
So they aren't working those guys to death in the spring. Pryor, obviously, like, Kiner is just kind of getting token reps,
Mm-hmm.
Every now and again you see him in there. You see Pryor a little bit more, but then as a result, you're getting a lot of reps for Chance Williams. You're getting a lot of reps for Manny Covey, who's also been pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just some of what happens as you get to the middle back half of spring. You don't want to put a lot of mileage on your main guys, and they're not live, but they are thudding and, being pretty aggressive in the run game in practice. So, hey, new guys or redshirt freshmen, guess what? The ball is in your court. You better show us what you got. So yeah. But he looks good. Like, he looks like he's got some legit wheels. He's got the ability to put that 1 foot in the ground and go and make that cut up the field. Yeah. So he's been good. I've liked what I've seen from him so far.
Okay. Roy, I'm going to tie in on this, and then Chad, I want to kind of hear what your thoughts are. It sounds like the safety room is like just flooded with numerous names that will have impacts on this upcoming season. Royer, is safety, especially with this, the 3-high safety look, is it more important to have numerous players that can do really well and you can kind of rotate in, keep fresh, or is it better to have one or two just studs that stay out there and grind for 90% of the snaps?
I think you want too deep at each spot, but you want the the first three guys that are like they're only coming out like just for breathers every couple series or something. I don't think I'm not a huge fan of like a platoon system. I think you need your guys that are going to play 80 to 90% of the snaps, and the other guys are just ready and they're quality and they're developed and they're ready to step in at any moment in case of injury, and then ready to roll the next year and battle for spots. But yeah, I think you got to have. I think it'd be good to have 6 guys that are all capable of playing, but your top 3 guys, or maybe like a top 4 guys that, and 2 of the guys they can like rotate to different positions, and you can kind of get an extra guy in there. But I think it's the same concept we had. It was like 1A, 1B. We need 22 guys on defense that can play no matter what. But I think sometimes, like with our D line, we did more of a platoon approach than I thought was necessary. Like they were doing kind of like 65-35 or 60-40 some games. But I think you need, especially the safety room, like you got to be able to see shit. You got to be in the flow of the game. So you need your top 3 in there. I think 80 to 90%, but your backup's still capable.
Right. I mean, the reason I asked that, Chad, because it just seems like, just in the practice reports, obviously, it seems like there's just a handful of safeties that are all having their moments where they're kind
all
of
really good. Like they're all potentially really good.
Yeah.
Makins and like you would think Kai Stokes would just instantly walk in here and be like a lock to start. He's not.
Right. Yep.
Canteen, Mankins, Stokes. I mean, you've got 5-6 guys at safety right now that all look really good. So that's a stark difference from last year when they had 2 that, even if you, I mean, you had DJ Taylor, and then other than those 3 guys,
Taj Ward, DJ Taylor,
and threats. And I mean, that clearly wasn't good enough. They got destroyed over the top. D Johnson, did you know bearcatjournal.com, we cover all of this stuff daily. So you would have a great insight as a member of Bearcat Journal into the performance of Samaj Jones. He had a great throw today. But yeah, he's from the DC area. He's here. And he looks all right. He looks decent so far. Some of the same issues that, plague a lot of these super athletic quarterbacks with big arms.
Mm-hmm.
They can throw the fastball. They have not developed a changeup yet.
Yep.
So a lot of his success is going to hinge on how he does, not just on running the ball, which he's been very good, and not just on throwing it over the top, but being able to be effective in that short and intermediate passing game. Those are some things that, he's going to have to continue to develop. That's the best part about the message board, D Johnson. It's always there. It's always there. Like if you miss 2 days, you can catch back up.
You catch it.
Catch back up.
Catch it. Still catch it. Speaking of catching it, it seems like the wide receivers are doing pretty doggone well too. So, and the tight ends. Right. That's one last thing I want to touch on, and then we'll hop in the mailbag. Are we gonna? Is tight end gonna be the position room where we do see true freshmen get some run this year? Because obviously, you've got Joey Belgian, Peyton Singletary, and Royer out there. So it's a little bit more deep of a Sacco. It's a little bit more deep of a room right now, but the glowing reports about Gavin Grover and Devin Zahersky are kind of starting to make me think, like, are they trying to find a way to fit them into the game plan, or do you think it's more of like they're showing flashes, but just 1 year away from really making a huge impact?
I would guess probably still 1 year away, but look, man, like those 2 are so physically different than all the other ones.
Yeah.
Like they are just so big and long and, just guys that look like can be a real threat coming down the road. Grover, they've been working him in a little bit more. Like Royer took a big hit in practice the other day, and they kept him out for a couple practices. He was back today, full go. So it wasn't anything serious. But in those practices, that opens the door, and Grover kind of took advantage of that. And now you're starting to see him a little bit more, when they are live and going through team periods. So I don't know. I'm not ready quite yet to say I think he's going to be a factor this year, but I will say he did a great job of the door opened and he got his foot in there.
Right.
And that's why if you're a freshman, you show up in the spring. If you can graduate early and you can go through spring practice, this is exactly why. They're going to be ultra careful with anybody that's a protected starter. Like if they got a hangnail, there's a good chance they're going to miss a practice or two.
Right.
Like it just doesn't, you don't have to have them out there. There's no game to get ready for. Obviously you'd like them to get the extra reps, but like it's not a necessity. Ryan got that a lot of times. They gave him the vet day in the spring, or they actually made him take all the snaps in the spring just to keep other guys fresh. One of the two.
Mostly me taking all of the reps, blitzing 80% of the time, gasping for air, telling Aaron to get the oxygen going.
We actually, your name did come up today. I was talking with a couple, not in the Sacco fashion. We were talking about that Mace's name came up, and we were talking about how incredible he is as a special teams coordinator. And I said he was so good, he got a Make-A-Wish on punt block from a walk-on that.
Oh, that's good. Thanks for repping me there.
Well, we were talking to Jack Griffith, who was with the Jets, Mace's first year as special, and he was like, look, man, that guy gave us nightmares because there were 14 different punt blocks and you had to prepare for all of them. And you never knew which little nuance that he picked up that was going to be your weakness. And I was like, yeah, that dude was as sharp a human being as you will ever find.
Yep.
Yeah, he was awesome. The schemes he dialed up for us was great.
He single-handedly won the Colts game this year.
Yeah.
Their special team scored 2 touchdowns, got a couple blocks. Big time.
He's going to make a lot of money in the NFL for a long time being a special teams coordinator if he wants to.
Right.
Yep.
Doggone agree. I doggone agree. Well, should we timestamp this sucker and head on into the mailbag? What do you think, guys?
I mean, we can.
Okay.
For sure.
I think we should.
That's a BBP timestamp brought to you by Quick Paper Supply, your local and family-owned restaurant supply company for all your non-food products. They provide mostly disposable restaurant supplies, products like to-go containers, cups, pizza boxes, to-go bags, can liners, napkins. They've been open since 2009 and are one of the largest minority-owned companies in the city. Call Nick, 513-470-2029, and reference Bearcats for 20% off your first month of purchases.
Bang.
Bang, bang.
Boom, boom.
All right, let's mailbag it up.
Yeah. I like it.
All right. Starting off with the football portion of the mailbag. Are you expecting many to enter the portal in April?
No. They brought most of the guys in from half of the roster right now is either guys from the portal or freshmen. I don't see any of them entering the portal. Landon Pickle was in street clothes today. Take for that what you will. I didn't see Trevor Carter at practice today. Take for that what you will. But ultimately, I don't think there'll be a whole lot of movement in terms of guys exiting in April, but who knows? It's the portal. I don't know.
So worst
when
part
it
about-
opens, yeah, like you have no idea.
Has there been a football portal
No.
window since they announced the 2-time transfer rule change?
Yeah, that the last, like the first one in December was already well after that.
Okay. I couldn't remember what the chronological timeline was of it all.
Yeah.
All right. That is the only question in the football portion of the mailbag.
Hey! All right.
Moving on to the basketball portion. Um, if computers want to work here, there we go.
Oh no.
Since we are in portal season, if Shuey had stuck around and UC still found a way to add Aziz as was speculated, how would that have impacted this team? And would it have been enough to get them over the hump and into the tournament?
No. It would have been nice having another guard, especially when CJ got hurt. But I don't think it would have been enough. I still, Micah had a great year this year at St. Bonaventure, but that was the right level for him. I don't foresee him being a guy that made more of an impact than Day did. I don't foresee him being a guy that made more of an impact than Jizzle did. So while you might have been able to weather the storm a little bit when CJ was hurt, I think it still would have been Dan, John, and Seamus as your starters next to the point guard and, next to Day and Aziz, with Jizzle backing up the point guard and Jamil backing up center. So I don't think it would have changed a whole lot. Maybe it would have, I don't know, maybe it would have given you a little bit more pop at the beginning of Big 12 play. But I think this was probably a step higher than Micah's comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I think he was right in that sweet spot, where he was with the Bonnies.
I was thinking more so it would have helped to have him during the non-con. And like you saw the non-con, that's when like most of the growth and development started for Day and Jizzle. And they didn't really need any additional help. I guess maybe you squeak one out against X or
But here's I guess the question,
Dayton,
Brent, is Jizzle where he got to at the end of the year if Micah was here?
Jizzle's probably in the portal if Micah was still here. If we're being completely honest, I think people probably just look at Shuey's shooting percentages this past year, which was really hot for a while, and I think that's when like the whole talk about like, oh, look at what Mike was doing over at St. Bonaventure. But St. Bonaventure was still like 6th or 7th in the A10, and he didn't elevate them to a fringe tournament team. It was just I think he was in the right spot. I don't think it would have affected this team, and also I don't think UC would have found a way to still add his knees either. So, but in this scenario, still no. I think it would not.
I think what happened for the best.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I'd be curious as to whose spot he would have taken on this roster. And I'm with you guys. I'm glad you brought it up. I was going to bring it up if you didn't. The development portion of it. So good call on that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What is rule on screens, legal versus illegal? Look, I still don't know what a foul is, so I don't know how we're going to know what a moving screen is versus a non-moving screen at this point. As certainly looked to me against Indiana State, everyone set by their center. He was extending out his hip and or just moving along with the ball carrier, blocking off our player, yet none were called fouls. Weird. On TV broadcast, though, it didn't look like Wes was complaining to refs about it, so maybe I just don't understand the rule.
So the hip stuff, where you are setting your base wider than your hips and you are leaning into setting screens, is supposed to be a moving screen. Like that is supposed to be essentially the definition of a moving screen. You are supposed to, when you set a screen, your feet are inside your hips. You're not moving at the point of contact. The other stuff in modern basketball becomes kind of tricky because guys are just refusing screens and defenders are slipping screens. And there's 15 different ways to play like variations of ball screen offense. Do I think guys should be allowed to do a lot of what Avila did in terms of like moving slightly, like after he breaks, setting the screen and being able to just stay in front of somebody and like shove them out of the way? Like that feels like it should be illegal. But the way that teams are using ball screens and the variations that they're creating off of them almost makes some of that stuff legal. Because you have to be able to release. And if the guy is in your way, like that's kind of the guy's fault. You got to fight over that screen or get under that screen. And if you allow yourself to be blocked essentially down the field, that's not the screener's fault. So some of it is, I think, an unfortunate like end consequence of the way that the offensive game is evolving. And because ball screens and because that action is so prominent, coaches were going to develop, secondary stuff, counter stuff to what their main action looked like. And I think that makes it really tough to officiate that. But the wide hip stuff where you're leaning into screens and you're dislodging guys outside of what is supposed to be like your legal, I am allowed to be in this space and set a screen as long as I do this. I think that got away from the officials a lot this year because there was a lot of it.
And you know what, on last Tuesday, and I don't want to tell you that, man, my mind was in a pretzel following that game. But that was the epitome of a, wow, this is a great home environment. Let's officiate with the crowd. Truly,
Yeah.
that's what it felt like at times. And it's hard in scenarios like that. Because I mean, it's also a thing where like look at Houston, foul every play. If the refs don't call it, then they don't call it, and you take that gamble. Well, and then you get in a game where the refs are calling all of them, and now all of a sudden 5 of your players have a handful of fouls, and your best player gets hurt, and so it's just a weird way to look at things when the postseason. It's the truth, but the moving screen is one of the more nuanced like calls that I hate because it seems a lot like pass interference in football and like the block charge used to be, where it's just like it's 50-50, but you could probably call it every single play if you wanted to.
I feel like I could just hear how much money you lost this past week.
Yeah, it's been fun. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say to counter what you guys were talking about is I feel like Cincinnati does the hip stuff roughly about 50% of the time. Not every time as Avila did, but that's is what it is.
Yeah. Look, if they're not going to call it, do it.
Right.
Like,
I agree.
I don't like that's. It's funny because like D. Johnson had something here about officiating, and we see this all the time. Look, we're going to talk about it. It happened. It's part of a game. Our job is to dissect and discuss the games. So if the officiating was questionable or there are things that were clearly wrong, we're going to talk about it. Like that's literally part of this job. I try my best not to emphasize it and talk about it after games because most of the time, like, it is what it is. It's a regular season game or whatever. But there are points in time where these officials should be held accountable. They should not just be able to give their interpretation of the rules. That's not how it works. The rules are the rules, and you execute the whistle at the determination of what the rules say to do. And There's been too many times this year that they were bad and that they deserve to be talked about. And saying every team has to play through bad officiating lets those guys off the hook. And that's not how it gets fixed. If you let them off the hook, it will continue to get worse because people aren't talking about the blown calls and the calls that might end a guy's career or a season or whatever the case may be. So, yeah, we're going to talk about it. Like that, yeah, sure. You have to figure out a way to work through it. And if they're not calling the hip checks and they're not calling the wide base and those things, then do it because they're not calling it. If you're in a game where they're letting you just hammer everybody at the rim, then hammer the other team at the rim and hold them accountable and say, hey, this is how the game is being called. But end of the day, if you blow a call and you turn around and you tee up the other coach and you take a 2-point game and make it a 9-point game in 10 seconds, then you should be held accountable for not doing your job correctly. Because if whatever your job is, if Brent sends a truck 5 states away from where it should be,
that's not good.
Nobody's going to be like, it happens.
Then talk about losing money gambling. That's losing money in real life right there.
The truck's supposed to go to Florence, Kentucky, and it goes to Florence, Alabama.
Oh, a lot of unhappy people. For me as well is the fact that Wes Miller is a master in press conferences. There's no other way to put it. He's a really, really good at them. When his comments about the officiating just spoke volumes, you know what I mean? It's like it's makes you think a little bit more about it. Kind of see the lenses of like, yeah, what we all saw is exactly what was happening. So
right,
that's my point of view on it. Because fans are gonna think. But I mean, look at the daggone Purdue versus Tennessee game yesterday. Tennessee fans are yelling and screaming. Edie gets called for gets foul calls all the time. Blah blah blah. You could literally call a foul on the player defending Zach Edey every single possession.
I'll counter you with the fact that he should have been called 3 in the key about 40 times, but he did.
I think it
was the 3 in the key for me.
One of his size 21, some centimeters probably outside of the post during one of those little drop steps. But yeah, officiating is the most unforgiving, one of the most unforgiving, professions out there. And sometimes though, you do got to hold people a little bit accountable.
It's also the job that you have no accountability for outside of being a weatherman. I put those two professions up against each other for accuracy and accountability.
Yeah,
moving on.
I had a buddy that worked at Channel 19 here years and years and years ago, and he took a weather job in Phoenix. And I'm like, that's like the pinnacle of being a weatherman is being the weatherman in Phoenix, right?
Right.
Today, 105, sunny. Tomorrow, cool front moves through. It's going to be 98 and sunny. And then Wednesday, back to 103 and sunny. And you just do that for like 300 days a year, and you're always right.
Oh,
it's the greatest job going.
All right. If you could significantly improve one trait for 3 players on the team for next season, what would you improve? The easy answer for Jizzle is his defense through screens, but I think improving his ability to get to the rim and draw fouls would make his pull-up more of a complementary piece, which would be huge for his overall offense and the team's. Dan, his 3-point shooting. Aziz, his comfort in the post next to the basket. He doesn't need post game like Reynolds, but he needs to be comfortable just catching a lob and landing if he's going to be a high-risk play and either going back up and dunking, finishing with a little touch right by the rim. Not expecting him to suddenly become a guy you can run offense to, but just someone who finishes a little more through contact at the rim.
Oh. Royer, I want to hear yours on these. Pick one player, one trait that you think that needs to be improved. Well, I like this. How about each one of us picks one player and then something that
Aziz post offense.
Aziz post offense. Yes, 100%. Yes, absolutely. Aaron, what you got?
Dan and his offensive IQ and awareness, like just be able to make a pass that doesn't make you want to put your head into a wall, or deciding when a layup is a good time to go for a layup, or you're just going to baby deer it through the lane.
Okay. Chad, what you got?
I'll go with Aziz, and I'll stay consistent and say his ability to get an offensive rebound and put it in the basket. I would love to see how many second chance points he had on the season.
Right.
That weren't dunks, like that weren't just surefire, catch it and jump up and dunk it. Like, how many times did he just catch an offensive rebound and go right up and lay it in? Or catch an offensive rebound over somebody and then, make one move and little baby hook. And that goes with some of what Royer's saying. As those things develop, the ability to score on an offensive rebound will develop, but it just sticks in my craw. If you're going to be a top 5 offensive rebounding team in the country, it doesn't do any good if you don't score the damn points off of it.
Yeah.
So that
True.
Aziz, second chance points. He should have 4 to 6 second chance points per game with the way he rebounds the ball.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed. Yes. I'm gonna Jizzle if
Good
he
take.
can develop.
Brent's take
Jizzle?
is yes. Good take.
Yes. Jizzle if he can develop that 3. Just the
I'd agree
3
there too.
would add so much more to his ability to then blow by the defender and also set up that midi that he loves.
Brent, no, even more so. Go back to the Indiana State game. He took 4 threes. What was the common denominator in every 3 he took?
Because they were sagging off of him.
They went under the screen and left him wide open. Did not fight at all through the screen. Right. There was no effort given by the defense to fight over the screen and challenge him shooting a 3. They were like, no, we're fine. Well, we're going to hang out here at the free throw line and keep you out of your mid-range package.
Well, and you know what happens, Chad, when you start to get more minutes and more tape and more attention to you on the game and scouting report, you see, hey, well, let's not let him get to that mid-range. Let's just let him shoot from the outside. So yeah, adding that and Aaron, I'm with you on Dan, but with Dan, it's just more. I want him to his shooting too. Just a consistent clip. I'm not saying like knock in 40% next year, but a consistent clip, and then just ball handling for Dan too. I think those 2 things, and Dan is elite.
Yeah, well, I was trying to be all inclusive without listing off all of the things on offense for Dan. Like, well, passability, dribbling, and shooting. If he could do all of those better.
But that's like taking like a high level player and then like fix all these things and you will be in
making him NBA ready.
Right.
Making it Aaron's trying not to make him a lottery pick, just a draft pick.
Right. Oh, I want lottery. Give me lottery.
Which would you rather see happen and why? Number 1, the NBA allow high schoolers again, or number 2, NCAA to model pro-style contracts for the athletes. Example, sign athletes to a 2-year deal for X amount of NIL dollars.
Oh, yeah.
It's 2 to eliminate some of the stupidity and insanity that's going on right now. The problem that we don't talk about that, if you're going to model pro-style contracts, there has to be a union, and there has to be collective bargaining, and there has to be, a lot of things that we are really far from having an answer on, because unlike MLB, unlike the NFL, the NCAA is not one entity. So if you're going to have a union, is it a union at every school? And if it's a union at every school, guess what? It's going to be vastly different from school to school and conference to conference and coast to coast? Is it conferences that come up with a union and they represent themselves for the conferences? And that's where the collective bargaining happens. Or is it an NCAA thing, which I can't ever see happening? Because when you're talking about these pro franchises, yes, everybody has their own opinions, but they are all working for the same goal. And when you're dealing with colleges, that is not really the case. Everybody has their own individual beliefs. Every conference has, kind of the creeds that they live by. Finding a way to do a players union nationally for essentially, I mean, are you going to have a players union for basketball, players union for football? Like, where does that stop? Or are you going to have a players union for every sport altogether? Because that'll never work. Because every sport is dealing with different money and revenue and consequences. Like, that part of it is the part that nobody really wants to talk about on the pro model needs to come to the NCAA.
Yeah.
But how, it almost feels impossible in the current state that we're in.
Yeah. It's the truth. Man, I wish I could say neither for one or two. One, I'm very selfish, and for number one here, I'm very selfish, and I like college basketball more than the NBA. So I want to see the best talent play in college basketball, even if it is only for a year. So not one. So I guess I'll pick two. And Chad, I agree. They're gonna have to figure something out, and I think that's what everyone knows it's heading towards. It's just like how hard it's going to be to actually make it happen.
I think if number two happens, and the way it should happen is they should all be employees with benefits as normal standard employees have. But I think if number two happens, then number one consequently also happens, because you should not be holding back a high schooler from going and playing professionally just because you think they need to go to school for a year. If an NBA team is willing to take a risk on a kid, that's up to the NBA team. More often than not, it doesn't work out with the high school kid anyway. So I don't think
that's wrong.
I think statistically it's not.
I mean, the last time that you went through with this, I think everybody would take the risk on like Kobe and KG and
correct
those all the guys that leaped.
Plenty of guys that fizzled.
Sure, I think that gets into something that the NBA doesn't have any control over, and I think that's why they wanted out of the high schoolers business. Is the NBA has no control over how good a high school class is, right? And teams were still like, when they got into that realm where a bunch of these guys were working out, teams were hell bent on, well, there's 10, 15 high school guys that we're going to draft in the first round. Yeah, and in the years that the high school classes were good, it was a boom for the NBA.
Sure.
But in the years that the high school classes dipped, you had a bunch of lottery teams that were taking guys that they weren't going to be good until their second contract. If they got to a second contract.
And that's a gamble that those teams should have to decide if they're going to make or not.
They've decided that they don't want to make that, which is why
I don't think that's up to the NBA.
It's up to, like, companies do this, Aaron. You have to have a degree to work for us, or you have to do this to work for us. The NBA has decided you have to be 1 year removed from high school to work for us.
Well, I think it's stupid.
I mean, it's capitalism, I guess. Like, they got burned enough that they decided that they didn't want to be in that business anymore. I don't see them going back now, especially with NIL, where guys can go develop and make money.
Oh, but how much fun would it have been this year to watch Bronny James suck? It would have made me a little happy.
Oh,
it would have made me a little happy.
You're an evil, hateful person.
That's fine. Do people confuse basketball IQ for lack of talent sometimes? I always hear about how this team had no basketball IQ, and to me, it was a talent issue.
I'll let you guys go. I'll save mine for the end.
I think as a whole, like when it comes to a whole team thing, I think it's kind of different. But I think for individual players, I think certain times it could be like a mask, if you will. If like deficiencies bring the overall view down, then you can just blame it on basketball IQ, or you can use basketball IQ as like a prop and to build a player up or a team up. I don't know. I think it's hard to quantify basketball IQ because there's probably some teams out there that have high basketball IQ, but they run, a type of offense that takes a lot of gambles, and thus you're turning the ball over more. So I think yes, at times it is a way to mask certain things, but I think for me, if a coach says it, I listen to the coach. Sometimes outside of that, it could be kind of just a pillar or a mask. And I think we're back to you,
Right.
Chad.
I didn't know if Aaron was going to go first. My bad. I don't know. I think sometimes like when you have like a super talented team, like they can kind of rely on their talent to kind of get them over the hump. So I think there are some times where guys are just so naturally talented and just gifted in the game of basketball that their basketball IQ doesn't have to be as high as, a more of a fundamental like basketball IQ kind of leaning type of player. So it's kind of like a mixed bag of tricks. I don't know if there's like a clear cut answer, but I think obviously you want a team that has basketball IQ and the most talent. I can guarantee you that much. That would be a very good team.
Absolutely.
Do fans confuse basketball IQ and lack of talent? Yes. Do players and coaches confuse basketball IQ and lack of talent? No. Not nearly to the same degree as fans. That's my 2 cents.
Thrifty Walrus is onto something in his comment. A lot of times it's one of those lazy, easy narratives. It's easy to point to, low basketball IQ, or they're just standing around on offense, or a million other things that you run into throughout a season that if you follow a team, the fans that aren't super basketball savvy, which most fans aren't going to be. Most fans don't have a career in basketball. Like they went pro in something other than college sports. So their ability to judge what is high basketball IQ, what is not, is irrelevant in terms of, their what they say in the heat of a game, and then when they say it in the heat of the game, then they've said it, so they have to live it, right? So they have to keep saying it, or keep saying whatever it was that they said over and over again into the echo chamber, because it's now, what they've created. So I don't take much from it. I do think we are in a basketball world today where passing is nowhere near where it should be. Like when you watch a team like Indiana State that really can pass the ball from multiple spots, multiple players, they're able to read a guy that's closing out and gets caught half a step too far this way, and the guy back cuts, and they know exactly when to throw the pass and exactly where. That gets counted as basketball IQ, and it's technically right, but ultimately, like, passing is just not something that is overly nearly as prevalent as it should be
Right.
in today's game. I think it's why a lot of people have kind of drifted to the women's game of late, and why we see their numbers. Like in general, they don't have the dribbling ability, the athleticism with the ball in their hands to really destroy a defense off the bounce the way that they do in the men's game. So what do they have to rely on? It's more of a passing game. It's more of a read and react situation than what you see in the men's game, where it's like, this is our best guy. We're going to give him the ball. We're going to play in ball screen, and we're going to let him, we're going to let him make decisions with the ball in his hand. And if there's a pass, it's going to be a drive. The defense collapses. He kicks to where the defense collapses, and there's the pass.
Right.
But you're not passing guys open a lot anymore. And that's probably correctly identified as basketball IQ, but it's also how the game has changed. Because guys couldn't do that off the bounce, what they're capable of doing now. And guys can't play off the ball screen. Guys couldn't play off the ball screen 5 years ago like they do now, because it is such a prominent part of, everything that happens in college basketball. So I think it's a crutch. And I do think sometimes it's what is a lack of talent is misconstrued as, well, they don't have the basketball IQ. No, they're just not. They don't have enough dudes to beat the other team that had better dudes. If you wanna know what people confuse, I think it's that far too often we confuse the fact that the other team also has, especially playing in the Big 12, really fucking good players.
Right.
And sometimes they have better players than you.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they have about the same level of player than you.
And on that night.
And one team's got to win and one team's got to lose.
Right.
That's sports, especially at the highest levels.
All right. Potential names to look at filling the Loeffler spot.
No idea. I had no idea who Josh Loeffler was when he got the job. I don't know that there's any specific names that jump out for it. I think that particular spot now, that's not a recruiting spot, I do think it's an opportunity to dip down into the lower levels and find head coaches at the D2 and D3 level that are really good and elevate them into that role where they don't have to worry about recruiting. They have to worry about coaching and film breakdown and scouting and all the things that, they had to do to climb up the ladder to get to be a head coach at a lower level. I think Loeffler worked out brilliantly this year. I thought he was an outstanding addition. And I think I would look to go back to that well going forward. The problem with that means I have to know every D2 and D3 head coach in the country, and I don't. So I would go back to that well if I were West, because I thought it was a great benefit to the staff to have a guy like him, right there in the heat of battle.
Best of luck.
Yeah, he was an awesome dude. I really enjoyed having him around.
Sounds like less smoke breaks and more networking at the AAU events. Good.
I won't miss out on my smoke breaks. Let's get one thing straight.
What are the grades for each individual referee in the Big 12 who should be relegated down to the MAC?
All of them. Amy, awful Amy.
I've got no comment on this.
Doug Sermons. We didn't see much Pat Adams this year. That was good. That was something I did not miss from the American Athletic Conference. I remember him maybe once.
Yeah.
A,
B, C, D, E, F.
Chip Kissinger was terrible every time he had UC this year. Doug Shows sucks.
But does this mean that we get the MAC officials? I mean, we don't want that.
No, we saw what having 2A Sun officials was like in Terre Haute.
I think West just needs to continue to build his rep with the current ones. We don't need to bring any new ones in. Because then they'll be like, whoa, that's Bill Self. Let's listen
one
to
of
him.
these billionaires that don't know what to do with all the money they have to create a referee academy because they love sports. Fix everything. All right. Could you see teams in the future using NIL money to offset scholarships to keep better players as walk-ons longer in the system to develop? For example, Sage, maybe he takes a PWO role to open up a spot for transfer. Could this even be possible?
People are doing it. There were a bunch of teams last year that had over 13 scholarship levels. Xavier had 14. And they're using NIL money to pay for the scholarship, or finding, we're going to get you 200,000 in NIL money, and we're going to get you 40,000 to pay for your scholarship this year. So you won't have to touch any of that. Be careful. I guess that 40,000 is probably taxable. So you'd have to pay taxes on your scholarship or whatever. But it's possible for sure. Teams are already starting to do it. I was hesitant on there was a lot of talk about it. To be honest, there was talk about last offseason, like if John Newman didn't fully recover, would he be an option to maybe be a guy that moves like to NIL walk-on status? And then obviously he did, and you didn't have to worry about that. But those conversations happened last offseason, and then you saw teams starting to do it. So that cat is out of the bag. So yeah, it's definitely possible for those things going forward. Hello? Are you muted?
Yeah, you're muted. Aaron.
Dang, I had a great transition there too. That's the last question in the basketball portion. I know. Last question in the basketball portion of the mailbag. One last question in the Banks portion of the mailbag, of course, comes from Skins. Happy belated Easter, gents. Rapid fire. Who would you rather be? Edition, Marshall or Barney from How I Met Your Mother?
Oh man, I didn't watch How I Met Your Mother, but
Marshall had the perfect setup, right? Had a hot wife that was cool as shit. She drank with the boys. Like, you didn't have to date around if you had Lily. So Marshall.
Barney.
What was Barney like? What Barney did?
Barney tried to sleep with everything that moved.
Yeah.
He lied, he cheated, he stealed. Like, he was a piece of shit.
He was Neil Patrick Harris. Yeah.
I loved him. I loved his character, but I don't know that's who I'd want to be.
I settled down as I got older.
I mean, clearly not if you still want to be Barney.
No, but I'm looking back when I was that age of the people in the show.
Okay.
In New York.
Would rather be right now. Right now.
I would not want to be any of those people right now because they live in New York.
It's a bad answer.
It's fine. Chandler or Joey from Friends?
Man. Chandler was just kind of I don't know. Probably Joey, just because I like.
Chandler had the consistent girlfriend. Yeah, he was a little boring. Had a couple funny moments. Joey was kind of he's just that goofball. I feel like
Brent is Joey. Brent is Joey.
Yeah, I think I am Joey.
I feel like I'd be Chandler.
Yeah, I think that's about right. Did we lose? Oh, there he is, Royer.
Are you all right? You have to take a shit, or?
We good.
Who'd you rather be, Marshall or Barney from How I Met Your Mother?
I haven't seen it.
You've never seen How I Met Your Mother?
No, not a huge sitcom guy.
We'll give you.
Chad doesn't even watch TV, and he knew who those people were.
No, I don't watch movies. I used to watch a ton of TV. I don't watch movies. Movies aren't my thing. 30 minutes, you can keep my attention for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
90 minutes, I'm out. I got shit to do.
Yet Chad loves baseball. So strange.
Well, yes, I love baseball because I can do this in baseball is on over here, and I can not watch it for 20 minutes. I can turn back around, and things are pretty much the damn same.
Yeah.
Unless you're Will Steer hitting a grand slam.
Hey.
Spencer
Hey.
Steer.
Spencer Steer. You
Yeah,
made
fuck.
Spencer Steer. And
I thought of Will
Benson.
Greer. Will Greer,
Or
Or
Spencer
Will
Steer, whatever.
Benson. You're mixing Will.
Yeah.
Will Benson's smacking that ball already.
Who you got? Chandler or Joey from Friends? Royer.
Don't know. Didn't
Well,
watch that.
You never
either.
watched
give you-
Friends?
You're kind of like Chandler. A little
No.
Good on you. Deadpool or Van Wilder?
Van Wilder.
Haven't watched Van Wilder.
I mean, Van Wilder is would be awesome, but Deadpool, you're a freaking superhero. I'd be Deadpool.
Yeah, but then you have to do superhero things. You got to save people and fight. And like
he doesn't
guns
like
and,
doing
like,
it though. He doesn't
He
do
does-
it.
He doesn't do it like
He
that.
does the reckless.
I know, but I'm saying you still have to be a superhero. Like that
He-
seems like a
he-
lot of work. Van Wilder just like
The only
set
thing
up
about
parties.
Deadpool though is like his skin is like all messed up. So
Yeah.
Van Wilder
creepy.
enjoyed
About
like
him.
what we know is Van Wilder was Bert Kreischer. If you give me a chance to go back to college and be Bert Kreischer in college at Florida State, I'm in. And
Yeah.
but there's a very important caveat here.
yeah.
Do I get Tara Reid Van Wilder
Ooh.
where she doesn't look like
you.
Tara Reid post Van Wilder?
Well, here's my question. Do you look like you now,
Or like me when Van Wilder
Or-
came out, right?
or do you look like Chad?
Do
From
I look
way
like
back
Sheldon
then.
Dillon from 90210?
Royer
Ryan
missed
doesn't know who that
entirely.
is.
He doesn't know what you look like when you Ryan. This is Chad when Chad was younger.
Yeah, I remember that picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
Van Wilder, 1,000%. Not even a question.
Beast.
Deadpool for me.
You know what I do to Keegan now at practice if he's writing the practice reports? Write that down. Like I pull the Van Wilder on him.
Okay.
Brady Drogosh interception, Keegan. Write that down.
Write that down.
Follow-up question. Best flavor of ice cream.
Boldly Bearcat.
Boldy Bearcat's really good.
I'm addicted.
It's really good.
I haven't had it yet. Is it pretty good?
It's very,
No, it's
very
really good. We all just said that.
Is
Yeah,
it
we did. We
red
touched on it.
velvet stuff in there?
No, they got rid of the red velvet.
Oh, really?
And it's and my co-host on Tuesday nights, one George Vogel, said that it's improved by getting rid of the red velvet.
What do
and
they
going to
have
regular
in there
Oreos.
now? Regular
Just
Oreos?
regular Oreos.
Chocolate, yeah.
Okay. Man, I'm a big like Java chip, mocha chip, like a coffee ice cream. That'd be my pick.
I don't really sit and eat ice cream. I love shakes, and I just like a chocolate, straight up chocolate shake.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really love ice cream either, but yeah.
I mean, I just don't like sit down and eat a bowl of ice cream.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm typically like a really good like vanilla bean, like a legit like, you know, not just like a crappy vanilla ice cream, but like a legit vanilla bean, like French vanilla bean or whatever ice cream. Like that shit for me is really good.
Yeah, I'm there.
Ryan, did you give your?
He said Boldly
your
Bearcat.
no,
Boldly
that's what I was
Bearcat.
doing. Yeah, and I agreed. That's the mailbag. Get us out of here, Brent.
Well, real quick, we forgot to mention. Shouts to Jawan Briggs. How about that? 42 reps of 225. You think you could do that?
39, I think was the official. I think they knocked 3 of them.
He was bouncing that boy off his chest, man. I tell you.
Yeah.
What. But yeah,
You can do that, right, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could do that, right? 42.
Yes. Multiply it by.
25?
I think I had
Divide by
19
2?
is my best. So
19.
multiply by 2.
That's really good.
Multiply my number by 2, and then we're there.
So does that dock him off from the highest of the combine and the pro day?
No, it was still the highest.
So the highest? Gosh. That's going to make some NFL team just be like,
Beast.
oh, yes.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, he's a monster.
He's
Just
a monster.
physically
Oh, yeah.
insanely gifted.
Right. Exactly. So shouts to him, but shouts to Danco, Joe, and Danco Transmission Nauticare. Shouts, of course, to Quick Favor Supply, and shouts to New Riff. my good friend Ryan. He does a great job with that Ripping with Royer segment. I love it. My favorite part. But guys, it's been great. Got a lot probably popping off this week, so stay locked in to BCJ as we bring you everything from every angle. So for my guys, pals, the crew, the squad, Aaron Smith, Chad Brendel, and Ryan Royer, I am Brent Young. Yet another fantastic BBP presented by BearcatJournal.com.
See ya.